there are people that are suffering from alcoholism and there are people that are recovering from alcoholism. It takes comparable effort and intentionality and process to live a life free of something that burdens you. If you have anyone in your life that you feel like is struggling with this, giving them freedom of not judgment of behavior, but judgment of their situation and love and support. Because there were three primary reasons why I didn't stop drinking before I did. One was I didn't want to be Ed the alcoholic. Second is I didn't want people uncomfortable drinking around me. And third, I don't want people not inviting me to the party.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Eternal Optimist podcast. I'm your host, Matt Drinkon. Of course I am. I've been saying that for a lot of episodes now, so I think you would know that. But I am Matt Drinkon, and I have an amazing guest today. His name is Mr. Ed Howie, and I'm going to read you a little bit about Ed's background because I've been chatting with him for a few minutes, and it's already been amazing. And he's already living up to the billing that was given to me by the person that referred him, my friend April Garcia. So thank you for that, April. So let's read Ed's background. This is amazing. So get ready. I won't read the whole thing. We'll just go for like 30 seconds or a minute. Check this out. Ed, highly sought after branding expert. He's worked with dozens of Fortune 500 companies in the U.S., companies like Chick-fil-A, H-E-B Grocery, 7-Eleven, Kroger. He's led teams, created, developed, launched brands that have led to more than $300 million in revenue. I kind of like him because his colors are North Carolina Tar Heel blue. And he actually has a dual degree from UNC here as journalism and advertising and his executive MBA. He's a serial entrepreneur, 30 years of experience in operations and marketing. He excels at creating innovative concepts that effectively promote client retention and drive profitability. So he currently right now is sitting in San Antonio, Texas. And I believe actually he's won an award. For best looking bald man in America. I think he just recently won that award with the National Bald Association. I just totally made that up. I don't know what I'm saying. And
I'll take it.
We've already had a good time. He's an amazing guest today. So I'd like to welcome our guest, Mr. Ed Howie, to the show. Ed, welcome, sir.
Matt, thanks for having me on here. Thanks for connecting, more importantly. And with a title like Eternal Optimist is like, game on, brother.
Heck yeah. Game on. And what that means to our audience, and I'll ask what that means to you in a little while, but I'll just say this. What that means is it doesn't mean all rainbows and unicorns. It doesn't mean toxic positivity at all costs. And I don't know anything about the negative stuff happening. No, stuff happens. It can be challenging. And an eternal optimist takes it in stride. It may be painful. It may be challenging. And we learn from it. We do our best to overcome it, and we live with those things. We can't control everything. So we take those things and we do our best with the hand that is dealt to us. So
we're well aligned.
Yes, sir. Sure. Absolutely. Absolutely. So having said that, Ed, something that is interesting to me right away is that you were recommended to me by Miss April Garcia from the Pivot Me podcast, and I really enjoyed April. So I'm curious a little bit, how do you know April?
So April and I met through an organization called Brand Builders Group. Mm-hmm. And Brand Builders is an organization led by AJ and Rory Vaden. And their whole mission is to inspire mission-inspired leaders to share their story to change the world. Mm. And so it is not only an incredible resource for like how to better communicate and how to better serve your customers, your clients, your audience, but you're in this room of individuals who are trying to do good in the world. And so April and I ended up at a table together, and it was just like total connection. She's a badass firecracker, make it happen, no BS individual. And we just immediately connected. And she's, I'm fortunate to know a lot of high caliber, high meaningful individuals. She's definitely top tier, The way you described her, before we started that's exactly her. So I got to tell you, having a referral from her, that's like, that's made my day.
Heck yeah, man. Well, having a referral from her made my day, and also seeing you're from Carolina and you do business here in the Carolinas and you're super easy to talk to and you've got an inspirational story. I'm glad you're on the show. And I'll ask one more question before we go into the deep end. If you had to share something that you think is interesting or something that you think that you haven't shared with many people out there, what's one thing about you might be able to share that's unique and interesting? you don't share often.
That I have not shared with many people?
You haven't shared too often. Yeah.
Oh, wow. That I lost both of my parents in the last 15 months. My mom was 87. My dad was 90. And to your point, it was not rainbows and unicorns.
Yeah.
But being able to navigate all of that and still protect my joy was one of the most refining and affirming experiences I've had, in that joy is not circumstantial and joy is not conditional upon the challenges of the day. That joy truly is peace of mind. It is a mindset, and it is not nirvana, but it is also a choice. And you can choose to protect it or give it away.
You're touching a nerve here, because I've lost my father as well, and mom had a stroke not too long ago. So for whatever that's worth, I feel for you. I also feel that you're strong and you have joy within, so you don't necessarily need people to feel for you. You have like a solid inner.
You know, that is actually that, right there. That is a misconception.
Okay.
That is a misunderstanding of joyful and optimistic people like ourselves, right? You need that text from people.
Yeah.
Just like someone who's struggling. Okay, you may be managing it better, but there was one individual in my life who texted me at just the right moment as the plane was backing away from Raleigh, Durham. And he said, I know it's been a rough day. I just want you to know I love you.
Wow.
And that is what it means to intentionally serve others.
Where were you at? Where was your emotional state when you received that text?
I was not sure if I'd see my father again. He had removed all directives. We had removed all medication. I had actually rolled him out of Duke Hospital for the last time, and we didn't know if it was going to be 24 hours or 24 months. And for 30 days, every time I spoke to him, I had to say goodbye to him.
Man.
And so that was the first time I actually left. It was the first time I had to say goodbye to him and then drive to the airport, get on a plane, and fly to Texas.
Man. When you share that story, the way it makes me feel is it makes me feel that I have this high emotional tank of energy, of love, of this positivity, this eternal optimism. And in those tough times, it does go down and deplete. And that's the kind of stuff, as a words of affirmation guy that I am, that's the kind of stuff that really fills my tank too. So I'm glad to hear your friend texted you that time.
It was providential, because I mean, what it caused me to realize is I had to have the courage to say, no, I'm not okay. I am struggling.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean I wasn't joyful, meaning I had peace of mind over the situation. One, God was in control, but two, my dad was at peace. But it doesn't mean I was emotionally well or emotionally filled. I was depleted. And when you're depleted, one, I've learned over the years, you have to acknowledge you're depleted, because for too many years I denied it. But second is you have to sometimes let other people know you're depleted. But then if you're staying in connection, he knew kind of what was going on, but not the details. He had no idea that he was texting me right when I pushed back from the gate. But if he had not known the situation I was in, he wouldn't have known to check on me. And especially men tend to be a little more like, oh, we got this kind of thing. And so I've I've considered myself having a high level of vulnerability. The last 15, 18 months pushed me to a whole different level and I'm thankful for it.
I want to highlight two things I hear that all people may take note of here is that it's possible to have both of those things. It's possible to have a level of inner peace or of joy and also at the same time be emotionally depleted and really struggling emotionally. It's possible for both that. They're not one or the other. You can have both at the same time. And I certainly feel that sometimes. And what fills me back up is just like you said, it's the right person at the right time, messaging thank you or appreciate you or I'm here for you or something like that. And I did that today for a friend who lost his mom last week. And he said thanks. And just, I'm connecting some dots here. So thank you for sharing that. I wanted to ask you to go back in time and explore with me, Ed, if you will, a challenging moment, circumstance, health condition, whatever it might be, something that was really difficult for you in your past that you endured or overcome. Can you please take us back in the time machine and take us back to one of the challenging times in your life and share with us what comes up, please?
So, this is interesting. So what I usually share, and what I will share, I'll get to real quickly,
Yes, sir.
is about 17 and a half years ago, I chose to stop drinking alcohol. And I'll circle back around to that. But, as kids, we context, I think, is just like missing in life when you're a child, which is pretty cool. But when I was 5 years old, I was diagnosed with a kidney disease, glomerulonephritis. And the way my mom realized I was sick is she happened to be out on the driveway, and I sped by her on my big wheel. It was like a spring day. It was April, so it was kind of cool outside, and she could feel the heat radiating from my body.
Huh.
And she had me, she kind of came towards me and grabbed my head, and I had a temperature of 104.
Wow.
Now, this is like so telling of me. Temperature 104 and on my big wheel. And so it ended up I had the kidney disease. They put me she put me in a cold bath.
Okay.
And then got to the hospital. I was in the hospital at Duke for 2 weeks, and all that stuff.
Wow.
And whole kinds of things I could share. But this is what I want to share.
Yes.
Is that we were back in Durham at mom and dad's 3 weeks ago, and my sister found the folder of all the the letters reporting the test results for 2 years post-surgery.
Wow.
In a folder in my mom's file drawer. Now, she didn't throw anything away, so it wasn't just being sentimental. But okay, think about it. No, they wouldn't give you the 1972. They can't fax you. They can't email you. They can't text you. I guess they didn't want to share it over the phone. So she would wait for a letter in the mail to find out the results of my, what was regionally weekly, biweekly, then monthly blood test to determine if they'd gotten the disease.
Wow.
I never fully empathized with what my parents went through as a parent. Because as a 5-year-old, I just remember me not being able to ride the big wheel or not being able to go to school for a full day or being stuck in the hospital for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? But it just really it just gave me a whole nother level of gratitude and empathy and understanding for how much fear. Like, I just put myself in their place.
Yeah.
If that had been one of our kids at age 5.
Yeah.
I mean, but waiting for a letter to let you know if your kid's okay, that's a whole different world than we live in today. And so, it gave me, it gave me a little clarity, and I say this in love, but it explained why she was hyper protective of me because they were worried that if I had a kidney injury, especially for the first couple of years, so she was a little more protective than I wanted, a little anxious when I was playing flag football and all that kind of stuff,
Yes.
but now I understand it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so, anyway, that's a bit aside, but probably the biggest, other than the last 12, 15 months, probably the biggest thing as far as overcame, if you will, or addressed or like finally called for real was 17 and a half years ago. I was on a business trip. The simple story is a client made me mad. And so I thought, well, I will do what they're asking to do, but I'm going to do it with a bottle of wine because, it's after business hours and, you know, they owe it to me or I deserve it or they're being unfair or whatever story I told myself. And
Okay.
then I went to a restaurant and had several more bottles of wine with dinner, and there happened to be a bunch of business people around the bar, and it was the playoffs, and I think it was the Cards are playing or Arizona. Yeah, I guess Arizona. But anyway, so then I finished dinner. I'm there by myself, and a couple of guys saying, "Hey, we're going to shoot pool over a sports bar, watch the game." So I went over there, had a couple more and a couple more, a couple more, a couple more. Then I got in a car and decided to drive back the little half mile back to my hotel because, it was just a half mile. And thankfully, the railroad crossing was down between the bar and the hotel. And I pulled up the railroad crossing. I put the car in park and fell asleep. And I was woken up with flashing lights. And I was arrested for, let's see, it wasn't driving. So it was operating a vehicle while impaired.
Wow.
And yeah. And within in that moment, and riding in the back of the police car going down to downtown Louisville, I literally was in the back of the car, handcuffs behind me, and I said out loud, "God, apparently I'm an alcoholic. I don't want to be, but apparently I am. And you are the only power that can remove the desire for alcohol from me. And so I beseech you to do that for me now."
Wow.
And then I said, "Amen." Yep. And I didn't care if my wife divorced me. I didn't care. I didn't care if my client fired me. I really didn't care. I had one of the first steps is acknowledging that your life had become unmanageable. Now, my life, 89% the visible part of my life was fully manageable.
Okay.
I mean, for the most part, no one had a clue, right?
Yeah.
But internally, I was unmanageable. I was managing a lot of life with alcohol. And many directions we could go there, but one of the things that occurred is living in Texas, being charged in Louisville. One is I had to call someone for bail, to get me out, and to explain the relationship I had with my mother-in-law. I called my mother-in-law.
Oh, wow.
Now, how many people
Wow.
would call
That
her?
is a shock. Wow.
Exactly. And she picked up the phone. I told her the situation. I said, well, Carol, I'm an alcoholic. She said, "Oh, honey, you're not an alcoholic." I'm like, "Trust me, I'm an alcoholic." And so,
Wow.
the cool thing that really became more clear several years is that I had to fly back 2 or 3 times to appear in court. And each time the officer didn't appear in court. And I remember how he treated me, and I remember how gracious he was for me. And I remember he kind of like, when I got to the jail, he kind of set me on the bench and that kind of stuff. And, this sounds hocus pocus, and I really don't care what anyone thinks of it. But about 2 years after it, I had a remembrance, for lack of a better term.
Okay.
Is that when I was sitting in the back of the seat, I was centering, I was in the center of the seat, kind of leaning forward, looking out, between the two seats. He was watching me the entire time in the rearview mirror. And when I said amen, he said amen.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, I don't know if it's true or not, but I believe that maybe part of his graciousness or his connection or whatever was him not showing up in court. because after the third time of flying back, the judge, whatever, canceled I forget the legal term. Basically, the case was dismissed. It didn't go on my record, which I really didn't care either way. But it was the closure was not in court. The closure was in the back of the seat. And so the backseat of the car. And so I say that to say that I will tell you that all sounds like holy and righteous and really cool. Well, the other part is that 48 hours before, it was September 25th or 26th, 2003, I pulled the article. There was an article in USA Today that said you're a binge drinker if you drink more than 5 drinks in 1 month. And my guttural response was, 1 month? That's got to be a typo.
Yeah. Wow.
And I mean, literally, like 48 hours later, I'm at this climax of the last drink I ever took. And anyway, and so that was 17 and a half years ago. And while I wouldn't wish it on me, like, I mean, I'm not like, oh my gosh, I'm so thankful I'm alcoholic, but I am so thankful.
Yeah.
I'm in recovery. I hate the word alcoholic. We could go all into that, but
why? Well, tell me why do you hate the word alcoholic?
Why? Because if you meet me blindly or anyone, they say I'm an alcoholic. More times than not, people visualize the drunk.
Okay.
Okay. Or the loser.
Okay.
Think about any cocktail party or any dinner conversation you've been around when they talk about the alcoholic. It's like, oh, well, I dated this boy in high school. He was an alcoholic.
Oh, yeah.
It's always the throwaway thing. And anyway.
Yeah,
so,
it's not an attractive quality or attractive stigma attached to saying the words alcoholic. But you know what? When you say it the way that you say it and without any fear of judgment, you just say it. You don't care. You just say it and you share it.
What are you going to do? I mean, you don't want to hire me? Don't want to hire my team because of it? Okay, go on, move on. I mean, anyway, whatever. But the deal is, though, there are people that are suffering from alcoholism and there are people that are recovering from alcoholism. And so I firmly believe that people recovering are really like alcohol survivors, like cancer survivors, because it takes as much work and as much maybe the wrong term, comparable, let me say it to be clear. It takes comparable effort and intentionality and process to live a life free of something that burdens you for all of us. And however, the world values some challenges greater than others and judges for some other than others. You never felt guilty about you never felt judgmental about someone having cancer and surviving it. But, that person's in recovery.
Yes.
Well, I mean, what's the difference between being in recovery for alcoholism and being in recovery for cancer? So all that to say is that if I were to preach to the audience, it would be, if you have anyone in your life that you feel like is struggling with this, giving them freedom of not judgment of behavior, but judgment of their situation and love and support. Because there were 3 primary reasons why I didn't stop drinking before I did.
Okay.
One was I didn't want to be the alcoholic.
Okay.
Second is I didn't want people uncomfortable drinking around me. And I remained 17 and a half years later, one of the best bartenders you can ever find. And third, I don't want people not inviting me to the party.
Okay. Okay.
Because I don't drink.
Yes.
And, most of those 3 things, they still kind of exist, but who cares?
Yeah. I love the way you shared that. Because recently, because I coach some people that are in the AA program, and I've been around enough high performance people that have said no to alcohol just because either they are an alcoholic, it's had destructive effects in their life, or they don't see the health benefit of it. In fact, it is a health decliner, if anything. All right. Yeah. So I'm alcohol free as well, maybe for different reasons. At the same time, I'm with you on that journey. And what comes up for me is the day after you were arrested, and now you're on the journey. You're on day 1 of recovery or day 1 of alcohol free. How hard was it to not drink on the day after or the week after?
I will tell you in full honesty that I've only had 1 or 2 moments where I've really thought, oh my gosh, I want to drink. I've never had a white knuckle moment. God truly removed the desire from me.
Okay.
But I also fully wanted to not do it again. And so, so bizarre, funny story is that I shared this with Justin. He was just rolling, but I didn't go to rehab. I went to Vegas. I had to be in Vegas 3 days after stopping drinking for a client for 4 days at a very social trade show.
Oh my God, dude. You went right in the lion's den on day 3. Wow.
But and I still love Vegas, which is so bizarre, but literally being there 4 days sober, waking up and going to the first Monday morning, going to an AA meeting, leaving the hotel at 6 a.m. to go to a 7 a.m. meeting before all the trade show stuff. Because at that point, I wasn't really telling anyone. I was kind of keeping it low key. It's like all the recovery you need. I mean, literally, I had I was playing simple blackjack with club soda, and my client saw me. It was probably around 11:30, 12 o'clock. And he sat down with me and played for 30 minutes. And the next morning I saw him at breakfast. He had no recollection that we had even seen each other or the 30-minute chat we had because he was drunk off his ass. And you know what? I never will have another morning like that, God willing.
Yes, sir. God willing, I'm with you, my friend.
And so it's been funny. All that stuff is cute and everything, but the reality is that someone asked me just yesterday, well, what do you think the difference is? Well, I believe for an alcoholic, I drank not to feel a certain way, where some people use alcohol to feel a certain way. And if I were to say, like, what's the delineation? That's the closest, clearest thing that I've seen. Because I've had many people going, well, do you think I'm alcoholic? And I'm like, well, I can't answer that. Do you feel powerless over alcohol? I mean, because I truly have become powerless over alcohol. But let me tell you why I've become powerless over alcohol. I become powerless over alcohol because I had lost the ability to calm my mind without alcohol. I had lost the ability to actually acknowledge unpleasant feelings without alcohol. Opposed to 17 and a half years later, that I can admit that I am mourning the loss of my dad and find peace of mind through other things than alcohol to flood that emotion, flood that feeling. You talked about entrepreneurs, high charging individuals. My brain constantly spinning. My 5 core strengths through Strengths Finders are ideations and strategic are the first 2. So I'm constantly not only thinking of things, but thinking of how you could actually make it happen. Okay. And so I don't know how many years, 2, 3, 5, it doesn't really matter, but I'd established a pattern of I could not catch my breath without alcohol. That is insanity.
Wow.
It's a liquid.
Yeah. Well,
and so removing alcohol was one thing. More importantly, I had to figure out how to retrain my existence to where how could I catch my breath in the middle of a podcast or in the middle of an argument or discussion with my wife or in the moment when I'm sitting across the table and a client just says, hey, by the way, we're canceling your contract in 30 days.
Yeah. Okay. Well, then in that immediate moment, when you get that, we're going to cancel your contract in 30 days. What is your emotional process or your regulatory process? What happens?
I hit pause in my brain and I inhale and I exhale. And I ask myself, what is the next right thing?
What is the next right thing?
And then the supportive question to that is, what can I do about this right now?
I love.
And more times than not, you know what? The next right thing is to keep your mouth shut. And oftentimes the thing that you can do about it right now is not a single thing.
And oftentimes the best thing you can do right now is not a single thing.
Exactly.
It's so serendipitous the timing you're sharing this right now, because right before this episode, I was planning for this event that I'm facilitating on the 28th of this month, and one of the things we're going to do, in fact, the entire event is around practicing feedback and how to have that conversation with people. And you said pause, inhale, and the first slide that I have on coaching them is pause, breathe, acknowledge that we're here right now, things are happening, and accept it. So I have my PABA, you have your pause, breathe, and then you have your question. What's the next right thing? What can I do about that now? So I like that we're in the same ballpark on the way we work through stuff.
I mean,
yeah, that's good.
For sure. Yeah. And the way, so I learned that there were two things that happened pretty quickly during this process. One is I'd previously been, before I stopped drinking, I'd been in an injury and hurt my knee, and that's a whole other story. But basically, I started practicing yoga. Ooh. And I don't know if you've ever done yoga before.
I'm not able to do tree pose right now. I can barely touch my toes, but I've tried.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. So yoga really for me is about breath control. Okay. And that your power is your breath. Okay. And if you stop, it looks very simple, but if you stop intentionally breathing, it becomes very difficult. Well, so one, I learned through that as far as just the power of breathing, and that it is involuntary, but it needs to be voluntary more times than not. Second is in the AA meeting format, the one that we use in my home group, if you're chairing the meeting, you say, let's begin with a moment of silence followed by the serenity prayer. And I'd been in recovery. In our group, you have to be in recovery for at least a year before you can chair a meeting. So I was chairing my first meeting, and I literally said, all right, let's begin this meeting with a moment of silence followed by a serenity prayer. God. I mean, there's like no moment of silence. It was like my moment of silence was like, and I hadn't had alcohol, for like 13, 14 months. And this old timer is what they're called. The guy that had like 40 years sobriety. He was like 70. He came up to me, gave me a big hug. He said, son, you may not have alcohol in you, but you apparently got rocket fuel. You're going to have to slow yourself down.
Oh, man. I don't know how to respond to that, because people have told me that as well and shared that perspective. And I humbly try to accept things. Not always listen, but accept it. And I don't want to slow down, honestly. I got to really pause to really practice slowing down sometimes.
Yeah, exactly.
So how did you take that when he shared that with you?
Honestly, I caught myself. I was aware of it when it happened. It was that obtrusive. It was that conspicuous. Okay. But it's what I needed to hear, because in any type of recovery or healing, you deal with listen, I'm not a doctor or scientist, so check my facts, but you deal with the impetus or the obvious, but then you have all the contributing factors you got to deal with. So stopping to drink alcohol for a week or a month, just doing that ain't no pixie dust. You know what I mean? Especially if you don't have a framework or a purpose or an intention of how it fits in your life, that kind of stuff. And so I thought I had made a lot of great strides in my first year I had, but I was nowhere near where I am today on the moment of silence. And so fast forward about 6 years later, I was taking an indoor cycling class at Gold's Gym, and it was a substitute instructor who happened to be in charge of all the group fitness classes. And I'm 46 years old at this point, 47.
Oh, great age. That's me now.
Are you really?
46 and 47 in a month.
I'm taking this class, and she goes, hey, we're having auditions for cycling instructors this Saturday. Y'all should consider coming out. And I just started laughing, like being a smart butt. And it was a middle class, and I'm in the front row. And anyway, and so she keeps teaching. So we get done with class, and she said, I know you're laughing. I'm like, I'm sorry. I was just picturing myself, teaching. And she said, well, you really get the athleticism of it. You should consider being an instructor. And I'm like, thanks. Yeah, I've got a real job kind of thing. And so that night at dinner, I'm bragging to my kids primarily, but my wife too, that, Golds wants me to be their next fitness model,
Nice.
fitness instructor.
Oh, man.
And they said, well, what is it? What would it take to do? Now, I will tell you, I had Googled, what does it take to become a certified instructor? So I made some comment about, well, there's like a workshop. You do a one-day workshop at UT in Austin. They got one this summer, but I mean, seriously? And so it kind of went by the side. For Father's Day, my kids printed out the page from the website and gave me the workshop to get it certified as a cycling instructor.
Wow. Oh, cool.
Yeah. So I went, got certified, learned the mechanics of it. I appreciated the logic and the instructional side of it. And then about 3 weeks later, I was at Gold's and I was riding in class, and there were some ladies beside me, and it was clear they had never been there before. And me just being me, they're like, after class, they're like, so what did you think of the class? All this kind of stuff. And I said, wait, time out. What are y'all up to? And they said, well, we're opening a cycling studio, not Gold's. Opening a cycling studio. And this instructor who was teaching the class, a friend of mine, we think she'll be a great instructor. We want to take her class. And me being me go, well, hey, I'm a cycling instructor too.
Ah!
And they're like, really? Like, yeah, I'm certified. I've got a certificate and everything. And they said, well, come audition. Can you come audition? I'm like, oh, I'm sorry. I've never taught a class before. And they said, no, seriously, come audition. I'm like, well, what does that mean? He said, well, put together a playlist and we'll see you at 12:30.
Awesome. Okay.
So,
dude, what? Okay. At some point, I'm going to ask you what's on your playlist. You can share it now or in a minute, but I'm going to be asking what's on that playlist.
Oh my gosh, it's Ed Howie Joy Beast on Spotify. I'll send you. But so I show up at 12:30. I get on the bike with a little microphone around my head, and I get through the third song. They stopped me. I thought, okay, this is over. They said, "You're amazing. We want to hire you. We'll work with you on the format, but we want you to be an instructor." And that was 10 years ago.
Wow.
So I've taught about 1,800 cycling classes.
Wow. I was not kidding earlier when we said that you were a male model. You were a male cycling model. And when it comes out, when the movie comes out, when it's about cycling,
it's going to be it. That's right.
Then you're going to be one of the extras in the background, or maybe it's a movie career waiting to happen.
Yeah, no, I'm probably the extra in the back row. But anyway, so my whole mantra, because when you're teaching, you have to talk too. If you don't manage your breath, you're toast. And so my riders call me Joy Beast or Beast Zen, because I'm all about resistance and challenge, but you got to do it with your breath. And so I'm constantly coaching breath and breathing. And it is inspiring and proactive, but it's also reactive and essential for me to be able to do what I do.
So that's where Joy Beast came from. It came from you being a cycling instructor. This is not your career vocation, and somehow you have managed to become someone who is going with the flow and adding value that way, and a cycling instructor. And you're still doing it today. You're still teaching people. And
I taught yesterday morning at 5:30 a speed class. Yeah, Tabata class.
So now, if you look at, let's just say yesterday's class, what is the driving force that's your why behind being a cycling instructor now? Because you're running a major company and you're successful over there. So where is the joy and the why behind cycling instructor, Ed?
I have 50 minutes. I have a 50-minute opportunity with a microphone to change people's lives. And to inspire them to. So so I tell them, my intention for this class is you walk out of that door stronger, calmer, with more breath and more joy.
Awesome.
And
more breath, more joy. Okay, back to the obvious question: what is on the Joy Beast playlist when you are running your class?
Okay, so let's just pull up yesterday, shall we? Because it is so freaking.
Are we going to see some Sweet Dreams Eurythmics here? Are we going to see some techno? What's on this list?
Oh my! Well, So I will. Okay, so here's a true story. You know that. So you're a music guy, Spotify.
Yeah.
Unwrapped, all that kind of stuff. My number one song last year was the song from the Barbie movie, which I still haven't seen. What Am I Made For? Which actually got Song of the Year at the Grammys.
Okay. What am I made for? What am I made for? What am I made for? Okay. I'm looking on here. Oh,
Okay,
I
so
see it. I
yesterday,
see it. Okay. I've not heard it, I don't
yep,
think. I'm going to play it.
you probably have. It's very slow, and it's about Barbie. What is my purpose in life? I'm a plastic doll, but it's also an incredible cool down song. And apparently, I played it on repeat a lot because it does actually ask a profound question: What are we all made for? What is our purpose in life? But I was kind of shocked. 3 years ago, Beyonce was my number one artist. The year before last, Vivaldi was my number one artist. So I'm all over the board.
Oh.
So yesterday morning, the first four songs was "Freedom" by Beyonce. That's the warm up, and then a remix of "Yeah" by Usher,
Yeah.
and then "Pony Jump on It."
Oh, nice.
Then we went to the all-time classic "Mr. Brightside" by the
Yes.
Killers.
Wow. Yes. Wow.
And then we made a huge U-turn and I played Beyonce's new country song "Texas Hold'em."
Okay. Okay. Texas Hold'em. All right. All right.
And then there's two other songs. I ended up with Whitney Houston, "I Will Always Love You" for the final sprint.
Oh, wow.
And cool,
1989, 91. That was number one song
yeah,
in a country for a long time.
yep. And then "Cool Down" was Adele. So
Wow.
it's all over the board, man. But yeah, if anybody want to follow my playlist, they're crazy. On Spotify, I'm Ed Howie, and then a colon Joy Beast.
Ed Howie, HOWIE colon
Joy Beast.
Joy Beast.
Beast.
All right.
This may be the first podcast I've ever given away my Spotify profile.
Yes. Awesome. Fantastic. Okay. Well, so we've kind of gone all over the place here, and one of the thing I wanted to ask you is that I was looking through everything I could find about you online, and something kept coming up. Just your use of the concept of intentionality. And
Oh wow.
when I see you out there, I see recovery, entrepreneur, branding expert, now joy beast. I'm feeling this love, this energy. And the thing that's like a puzzle piece or a dot that connects all of it is I've seen a lot of intentionality, and I even see the word intentionality out there in a couple places associated with you. So can you talk about what does intentionality mean to you? And we'll just start with that.
So I'm going to answer it backwards. Um, my behaviors represent and reflect my intentionality.
Okay.
And so, did I intentionally say I want to drink a glass of wine after glass of wine, after glass of wine after glass of wine on whatever occasion? No, I didn't set out with the goal. Well, sometimes I did, but I didn't typically set out with the goal of how much can I drink. It was never about how much. It was more like once I started, it was harder to like turn off the keg or turn off the wine bottle or whatever. But my behavior represented my intentionality was to drink without control. Okay. So the way I stopped drinking without control is I changed my intentionality. My intentionality is to not drink. Therefore, what am I doing in my life to increase the probability of that behavior of not drinking? And what am I doing in my life to increase the probability of risking that behavior not occurring? Okay. So, what does intentionality look like to me? So, I've described the last 15 months as robust. Okay. I was able to navigate and protect my joy, some days more than others, more effectively. But through most of it, I was able to maintain a pretty cohesive peace of mind.
Yes.
Okay. Before my mom passed away like within a week, and it just kind of threw everything into what it was like for 15 months, 16 months. I was like working out like 4 or 5 times a day religiously. I mean, 4 to 5 times a week religiously, meaning that I was typically up at 4:42 or 5:42 every day, and that was my pattern because that's what that's what committed people do. That's what 10x people do. That's what whatever. Okay. I didn't have the capacity to do that as I was going through everything. One, whether it be travel, that kind of thing. And so if I held myself to the same metric when I was going through what I was going through, then I would be constantly just beating myself down of, oh, well, I worked out 3 times a week. Why not? So I had to change my intentionality. And my intentionality was, instead of what is my streak going to be for the week, what do I need for today? As an aside, the prophecy and the brilliance of memes. I wish I'd seen this a year ago, but there was a meme that I shared like first week of January, and it said, if you've only got 40% to give and you give 100% of your 40% today, that's still 100%. And there were a lot of days where I was working with only 40% capacity. So I'm in a different mindset right now, that where I really love working out in the morning, that the habitual, committed, almost kind of like rabid belief that I've got to get up at 4:40 or 5:40 every morning, or I'm not starting my day right. This morning, I set my alarm for 7 a.m. and I stayed in bed till 7:45. And I decided I'm going to lift at 6 o'clock today versus ride at 6:30 or 5:30 this morning.
Okay.
And that was an intentional decision I made yesterday, and then I made this morning, and then I reworked my afternoon that me and a buddy are going to lift at 6 o'clock tonight. And so that's intentionality. I still need the outcome. I wanted to get exercise in today because I have the total number I want to get in this week.
Okay.
But I'm not as rigid that if I don't do it at 4:30 or 5:30, I've lost the day.
Thank you for taking the time to describe that, because so many people will be so self-judgmental if they don't stick to the rigid routine, or if I miss this in the morning, then my day is shot. And I like that you can be intentional to change it up and not judge yourself or be so crazy hard on yourself. So thank you for sharing that. Yeah. That's good. What is my intentionality today? It's keep it simple. What is my intentionality today?
And the intentionality is, what behavior, what outcome do I want?
Okay.
The outcome is that, I have no desire to be a supermodel, and I will never have 6-pack abs, but I don't want to jiggle, and so that's kind of like, that's the intentionality.
Heck yeah. I'm with you too. Same thing. I might not ever be a supermodel, and I don't want to jiggle either. I'm with you. In fact, I'm doing this thing right now called 75 Hard that I heard about some years ago. Have you heard of this?
I have. Are you doing it?
I am. I have held off from doing it for the last like 4 or 5 years because of the alcohol component to it. And now that I've been alcohol free for mostly 7 months, all of this year, it's been a month and a half, but mostly 7 months, I've gathered the courage to do it. I'm on day 12 right now. And
it's a lot, isn't it?
It is a lot. The hard part for me is the second workout. Just making the time is a priority. But the rest of it, now that the alcohol is not involved in the equation anymore, the rest of it's pretty much a breeze. It's just that second workout's real intentionality.
Oh yeah,
real intentionality.
And one's got to be outside, right?
Yeah, and I normally do that one, as you say earlier, the 4:42 or 5:42. I'm the 4:30 guy.
Knock that one out first.
So I knocked that out first when it's still dark out right now.
Now, and so I believe in stuff like that for sprints and everything. And again, everyone, it's what has to work for you. What I realized is that part of my hard driven was like I needed to give myself some grace because I didn't have the capacity. And so then this week I've had more capacity. I feel like I've turned a corner really from a lot of stuff. And I did it proactively instead of because I didn't have the capacity. I was like, you know what? I don't have a call until 10 o'clock.
Heck yeah.
Why do I need to rush out the door at 4:40?
Yeah.
Now tomorrow's back to 5:42, but so
And Ed,
and so this does okay. So I don't know how we are in time, but um, intentionality is. So you probably saw some stuff about the wonder of woo
I sure
and all that
did.
kind of stuff.
Wonder of Woo,
Okay.
WOOO.
So,
Yes, sir.
WO. Okay, so it stands for winning others over and over.
Okay.
Okay, and the first framework we're launching is all about winning lifelong customers through the wonder of woo, and there's this whole business model and framework and everything. That's really where it all started, but then where I kind of got distracted, but also personally invested was what does this mean in our life? And so while Woo has a whole business model, for me, it's a lifestyle, it's a mindset. And that is to win oneself, to win others over and over. I have to win oneself over and over. I have to win myself over and over. And the best way that I can create Woo in the world, I mean, not just through business, but through life, is to do something intentionally good or unexpectedly good for myself and to do something intentionally, unexpectedly good for someone else every day.
Hmm.
And I mean,
Wow.
if we're called to love God and love others as ourselves, the condition is to love others, we have to love ourselves. And so instead of being the martyr, I'm only going to serve other people and I'm going to Mother Teresa it. And that's no disregard to Mother Teresa. Okay. But that mindset of that I ignore myself for others. And I don't mean like ethically and I don't mean like spiritually, but I mean like physical, like mental, emotional self care.
Mm-hmm.
If you are not taking care of yourself, then how can you give fully of others? And so
Totally
I
agree.
see them as mutually exclusive versus um, bifurcated. Is that I've got to take care of myself so that I can take care of others well. I mean, just functionally look at. I mean, you shared about your parents. I mean, look at what the last couple of years of a life can look like, depending on the health that you're rolling into those in.
100%. Yes, sir.
This is something that really. I'm 6'1", 225. My wife right now is 5'1" and light. I'm not
Good.
saying any
Good
weight.
call. She's light. By the way,
Right.
I'm 6'6",
But I can,
225, and my wife is 5'1" and light.
okay. So excuse me, but and I don't use profanity, but what kind of asshole am I being if I allow myself to get to 3:30 and immobile, and my wife is 78 years old, trying to get my big bohunkus out of bed so I can go to the bathroom?
Wow. I've never heard it framed that way
Talk about
before
self.
until right now. I like that.
Talk.
Yeah.
I mean, think about it. Talk about selfish.
Yeah. Wow. It is. It is.
This woman you love for your entire life. So that's one of the reasons why I get up and cycle is that I want to have my mobility and I want to be as at least as solid as possible. Maybe not as light, but as solid.
I hear you. Well, Ed, you mentioned the time. It is about that time. And I'd like to ask you to share with our audience, how can we find out more about you and where do we find you online? Outside of the amazing Ed Howie, Joy B Spotify list, where
Probably Spotify. My gosh. So a couple things. So my company is called BTY Creative.
BTY Creative.
We're a strategic marketing and branding firm.
Okay.
The B stands for bold. The T stands for true. The Y stands for you. And we help brands be their boldest, truest you. So btycreative.com. Personally, I've got edhowie.com, which is my website. It's got some information about Joy Beast and about winning lifelong customers and Woo and all that kind of stuff. I know some of your audience is entrepreneurs, and something that is not new content, meaning it's been out there about a year and a half. But if on YouTube, I've got a channel. It's called Ed Howie. Appropriate. And we've got about 70 episodes of a show me and the team put together, which is called Howie Grow a Brand, like Ed Howie, Grow a Brand.
Nice.
And it is a collection of things learned, observed, verified, validated, and been inspired by of how you grow your brand. And they're 10, 15, 20, 30-minute episodes. They're intentionally designed to help business owners of any size, marketing leaders, whoever, really understand marketing, branding, and how to grow a brand. And those episodes are free. out there at Ed Howie on YouTube.
Awesome. Well, we're going to go check you out there. And also for our audience, just to recap, btycreative.com, edhowie.com, and also on YouTube. Ed Howie's got 20 episodes. Howie, grow a brand. Fantastic. And if you visit the biker, I mean, there's a niche out there somewhere, but if you visit the model group of bikers, cyclists, creators, and coaches, you might find Ed out there somewhere too.
The masters. What is it in marathons? Masters group, whatever. Yeah,
fantastic. And it's been a real pleasure to join, my friend. I got a couple last questions, and we'll wrap it up here in the lightning round. One of those questions: if you think about books, and there's been a book or two that have inspired, motivated you, that have filled your cup, taught you something, what's one or two books that you might recommend to our audience?
First book, a Bible study, Experiencing God by Henry Blackaby.
Yeah.
The principle is that God doesn't need us to create him or work for him. He is at work. We are to join him in his work and heed his calling and join him in what he calls us specifically to do in his world. Okay. And then second, along the lines of that, in 2003, read the book Now Discover Your Strengths by Marcus Buckingham. I think I probably referenced it earlier. My 5 core strengths are ideation, strategic, winning others over, connectedness, and positivity. The framework of that, the principle is that if you do not understand exactly how you're uniquely designed and what your core strengths are, you are living in a world of stress or lack of peace of mind. And the better you understand your strengths, you can order your world around the things that you are most equipped to do. You are not only more effective, you are happy.
Wow. Great recommendations there. Thank you. And let's go to music. You've already shared some of the music on your playlist. If there is one song or one artist that might inspire you the most and fill your bucket, who might that artist or what might that song be, Ed?
The Chainsmokers, Closer. The line in it, we ain't ever getting older.
Oh, awesome. By the way, I'm taking notes here because tonight when my wife and I play Boggle, we like to have like each round 3 to 6 minute songs that do that round. So I made your whole list tonight.
Oh, man.
My entire Boggle game tonight is going to be based on Ed Howie music.
Bring it on. We're winning tonight, okay?
That's right, baby. Last question. You're on the Eternal Optimist podcast. And when I say the words Eternal Optimist, what might that mean to you, Ed?
First thing came to mind, my hope is built on nothing less than however the hymn goes, Jesus Christ and his righteousness or whatever. That there is a spiritual element to it that man cannot create.